So here's the thing. There's no one at the studio right now but me. Our studio has been shut down for around a week or so because of a bit of a COVID issue. Pretty much everyone's vaccinated, everyone's doing fine, but out of an abundance of caution, we closed things down for a bit. And now I'm feeling some 2020 vibes as I sit in the office by myself, filming myself. But the show must go on, and today I wanted to take a look back at some directing tips that we've had on the show that have influenced me or have been something that has driven me forward as a director. And as I've shared with you guys a lot recently, I'm pitching a ton, and that consists of building treatments and visual decks, and ultimately those two come together for the actual pitch. And there's a lot of directing in that, a lot of having a clear, concise, and strong vision. And that just got me thinking about the craft of directing a lot more, the things I didn't expect or things that ended up being the most important. And it brought me specifically to a few things that we've shown on the show. So that's what we're gonna look at today. And the first of these tips is coming from Dan Trachtenberg. Dan, of course, directed 10 Cloverfield Lane for Bad Robot, episodes of Black Mirror and The Boys, and is now in the middle of production on the new Predator film. And this tip is one that's important to hear over and over, and that is to trust your instincts.
And one of the most validating experiences of the whole show was getting to the dark spot and then it being, okay, we don't have a shot list for the next day. So after we wrap, we go through the next day's stuff, and the camera operator and the camera team were kind of, okay, we're in here, so we'll start wide, obviously, what would that be? And then, okay, well then we just sort of talk through it, and we figured it out. And it was awesome, and it happened very quickly, and it was so gratifying to know that I didn't have to, really be hard on myself and over-intellectualize things, and I got to a place where I hear some of my heroes are able to do, where they can work off of instinct and whatever, and I was really able to work off of instinct, and also do the thing that I hoped that I could do, which is while we're shooting, suddenly, the camera's resetting, and when it's resetting, I'm like, oh wait, that's awesome the way that moved and did that thing, and let's change of plan, guys. We need to do this now. And That was scary to say, everyone had planned for this and the crew might get angry at me that now I'm totally changing. But it made it better. It makes it better, we gotta do it. And I was just delighted to know that I had the talent to do that, and I had I was okay to upset some people, ability to take that, and it ended up being fine, I was able to rally the crew behind things like that. That was wonderful.
Hearing Dan say that at the time was really validating because I felt the same way. And there are always times when the plan goes off the rails and you have to come up with a whole new one. And it's in those moments that your instinct kicks in and carries you through. But I will say, I think that instinct is entirely informed by your experience. And to really have great instincts, you need to build your experience. Make as much stuff as you possibly can. And I've said on the show a bunch that the short films that I've chosen to make over the years were always strategic to gain specific experience. And by doing that, I filled up the tank so I could trust my instincts. But moving on, next tip is from director Avi Youabian. He's directed episodes of The Walking Dead, Batwoman, Arrow, and more, and he is one that really helped me understand and refine this aspect of myself as a director, and that is trusting and including your crew as much as possible.
It's your vision, it's your project. This is like your baby, you're the director, you see it. This is the thing that you're making. So you have a fire in you for it. Yeah. How do you take that fire and give it to the crew? How do you rally them behind you? What's your process for that?
I show them visuals. I think reading a script is different. And most people are probably reading it while they're taking care of whatever other stuff they have going on that day. It doesn't jump out at them. So I always create a visual Bible. And it has everything from wardrobe to the color palette to shots that I've stolen from other movies that I'm referencing, saying, hey, this is how we're going to approach this. And now I use Google Slides, which is like a shared presentation document. So I throw in all my cinematography lookbooks first. And that's something I share with my DP. And once we get that to a place where we're happy with it, I'll start sharing that with the crew, and then I continue to add to it. So this link that they have in their inbox is constantly being added.
So just keeping them involved with the process in
Exactly.
any way you can. Do you like keep it in your mind and figure out ways to like subscribe ownership to everyone so they feel like this is, my film too?
I think you have to, or else you'll fail.
Sure.
Anybody who thinks that filmmaking is a one-man band
Right.
is going to make a lot of awful shorts
Yeah.
or films that are going to fail.
What about notes? Because huge part of your job is giving feedback, giving notes, switching directions. So when something comes in that it's not just praise that has to come back, when you have to give notes, what's your process for that? Are you just like direct and to the point, or is there a certain way that you approach it?
From my experience as an editor, I learned that if a director gives you notes, they say they don't like something or they don't like the way something was cut, a strong director will say, this is how I want you to handle it. They'll have an idea or a solution. There are producers I've worked with who have said, I don't like that. Honestly, I don't know what it is. It's not working for me. And one guy said, I'll know what it is when I see it. And I was like, you want me to just like rattle off 1,000 different versions of this
Right.
until you find out what you like? So what I like to do is always say, here's what I don't like. And I'm very clear. I don't sugarcoat it. I think people go, okay, he knows exactly what he wants. I say, I don't like that because of this. And here's the direction I'd like you to go. Or can we try this?
And just from the editing standpoint, I know from getting notes from you was, even when it was never harsh, even though it was direct and to the point of,
Yeah, let's talk about editing,
this
Ryan.
doesn't work. I don't like this. It never felt like, oh, I screwed that up. It was like, no, do it a different way. You got this. And I appreciated that approach. I learned a lot from that. It's just like, it was always, you took a wrong turn, but I know you're going to find the right turn. Do this instead.
We shot that right after Abi directed a short film for Ubisoft, and I was actually his editor on that film, and I was also on set with him throughout. So getting to see firsthand how he included his cast and crew and rallied them behind him in his vision really changed how I approached that same thing. He gave ownership to everyone and created an amazingly collaborative environment. And as his editor, I felt that firsthand. He made me feel trusted and heard. Sometimes, instead of telling me exactly what to do for a scene, he would tell me what he didn't like, what he did like, and then told me to surprise him. That gave me a lot of freedom and gave him a way of seeing things differently. It really was a brilliant approach, and again, informed a lot of my own. Next up is a great tip on working with non-actors from Ricky Staub. Ricky most recently directed Concrete Cowboys for Netflix, starring Idris Elba.
One of the things that I kept in mind is that there were always two versions of every scene for me. One was a fully built out narrative scene, and one was, oh my gosh, they're not hitting the emotional marks or they're not acting well. So here's a way that I can have the scene work if I just pull out my camera tricks and make it more of a poetic version of the scene or a more visual version of the scene. And I think this helped me out a lot because it helped me feel like I had options in case scenes weren't working. I think the best scenes are the most visual. So how many scenes can you have that don't require dialogue? So if you watch The Cage, the actual first real scene in the film actually has 0 dialogue. I went into that scene knowing that they wouldn't speak at all, but there was versions of every scene that I had shot that had those types of elements that no matter what, I'd have something usable to tell my story.
Now, of course, that episode is specifically on working with non-actors, which Ricky is incredible at, but really that tip is just great in general. But before we move on again, I want to thank Musicbed for partnering with us on this episode. They've been one of my main sources for music for the last 7 years or so. There's 2 main factors for me that truly make me love Musicbed. One, the quality of the music is top-notch, and they aren't production music or royalty-free, which is great because that means we can get access to higher quality quality music, and what they get are great musician bands and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and that's a big distinction. You can find a lot of music that's clearly made just to be sold, and for me, I can feel the difference when there's passion in the music, and I think it makes a big difference for my project since I think the audience can feel it too. And then through Musicbed, we can easily license all of that for film, TV shows, advertising, whatever you need it for. Then of course there's the subscription format, which yes, everything is subscription now, but with music licensing, it's a godsend for me. We are constantly needing new music on a weekly basis, and with this we have an unlimited license to their roster of artists for that one monthly or yearly fee. If you want to check it out, and you really should, you can create a free account to listen and download watermark tracks before committing, no credit card required. I also have a playlist of some of my favorite tracks from Musicbed, which there's a link in the notes for that, along with a link to get started with Musicbed. And if you do want to get great music and help us out, use the coupon code FilmRiot at checkout to get your first month free when you purchase an annual subscription. Again, a link for all of that in the notes below. But moving on to one of my own tips, and one that I learned from other amazing directors and started focusing on, and when I did, it really changed everything for me.
So your whole job is making sure everybody is on the same boat, that you're all thinking the same way. Everyone understands not just what you're making, but why you're making it. What are the themes here? What are you trying to say? What does each scene mean? What is this character going through? What's in their head right now? What type of things do they like and not like? Those are the conversations that you'll have to get people on the same page to where you do get to production. There's a lot less to talk about because everybody's on the same boat. So if you do your job in pre-production, have those conversations, you're going to be a lot better off in production. And on this one, that included my relationship with my actor, Stephanie. Thankfully, on the first day, I ended up going downstairs to the hotel and they had the breakfast there, and Stephanie was down there. It was just the two of us. So we ended up being able to take about an hour and a half to just talk and connect and talk about what the film meant and talk about our lives and what the film meant to us and how we relate to it because of what we've been through. And having that conversation kind of dropped both of our guards, and we started to really trust each other. So when we were on set, there was already that built-in trust that didn't need to be built in on set. We both had connected before, so everything after that just felt like we were on the same team and both understood exactly what we were making and why we were making it. Not only that, from each other's perspectives, because she has a perspective of the story and so do I, and those perspectives do align, but they are from different voices. So we ended up having a harmony there, and I really found that incredibly useful and will absolutely be doing that going forward. That's actually one of the things I learned most from this production, is having that connection with the actor, that emotional connection with the actor before stepping on set. Seems like a no-brainer, but I hadn't done it before, and doing it for this one was really invaluable.
Kind of weird to cut to my own tip, but there you have it. It's definitely one of the most important for me as a director, so, you know, get off my back. But moving away from myself and back to Dan Trachtenberg with what might be the most important tip for your path as a director.
20-year-old you sitting in front of you, what bit of advice would you give him? Could be more than one thing if you want.
I'd show him this interview. It'd be really helpful.
Just
really
learn from this,
reassuring.
boy.
I think it'd be really reassuring. It would probably be to not, because I'm sure at the time, I know at the time I was reading every film book, every interview with writers, directors. The first time, there's like the book, the first time you got paid for it or whatever, and I was really trying to align myself with one of their paths.
Right.
And I found, and I think you find too, like I started getting more successful and feeling more confident when I stopped trying to align myself with their paths and owning my own path. And even to the degree of like, there are people in training, whatever their job is. If you're watching this, you're probably interested in filmmaking. And if you're living in Los Angeles, you might feel like you want to go to every party and schmooze with everyone because that networking is so important. I am not someone who can do that well. I am not. I'm introverted, and Same. I'm not able to hold my own in that. I'm great one-on-one, but I'm not good in that. So were I to do that, fail miserably, not accomplish my goal. So I realized, I have to hone in what I'm very good at. And I would go to dinners with some, like there was moments where I didn't feel like going to dinner when my friend knew this guy at Disney or whatever, and he loves comics, and you like comics, you should go. And I'm like, I'm just kidding. No, I'll go. I realized I need to go to that because I'll be great one-on-one. If I saw that guy in a party, I would never approach and talk, and we'd never have a thing, And that guy is someone who 5 years later, when I made the shorts, showed my short to an agent, and that's how I got my agent, was from going to dinner with that guy that one night that I decided, with a buddy of mine. So things like that. I have a friend who called, a likely story we've heard before of he had a project and he called pretending to be his own agent, and that worked for him. He's that guy. I would not, I need, wear my heart on my sleeve, I need to be honest, I could not be that guy. So that would be unsuccessful for me. What was successful for him would be unsuccessful for me. And doing the podcast, and Totally Rad Show and all those things, reviewing movies, that helped me, because from that I had a following on Twitter, and from the following on Twitter, I was able to make the Portal short, because I had effects artists helping me that I did not have otherwise. So that helped me by following that niche interest that I thought was maybe a distraction, but I was really good. I enjoyed doing that. It was fun. That helped me make movies as much as directing commercials to then make was what other people's paths were.
Yeah.
It really would be calm down, trust, be confident in what you are, don't. When you're a teenager, you're always who am I? Am I goth? Am I that? You're trying to figure out what your identity is, and I think when you're 20, it's time to settle in, be cool with who you are, embrace who you are. You know enough about yourself for now that you just need to encourage those things that you strive at and try to avoid the things that you're not great at,
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And that's a really powerful piece of advice. And honestly, I think the absolute most important. When you're first starting out, you try to be like the people you admire, and that's just not possible. You really do have to take inspiration from your heroes, but carve your own path. And along the way, you'll pick up the experience and know how you need to succeed. But that is it for today. Links to the full episodes of everything we've shown in the notes below. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.